Hey everyone, welcome in to another daily editorial here on the KE Report. Corey and Chad here getting an update from Kuya Silver, traded on the CSE under the symbol KUYA, and on the OTCQB under the symbol KUYAF. We are chatting with the president and CEO, David Stein. Now, we're going to be focusing on the company's Silver Kings property in Ontario, because just a couple days ago, March 15th, the company released some visuals when it comes to the drilling that is ongoing at this project. Now, in the past, we have talked a fair bit about the North Drummond area that would be drilled. The company, though, is announcing a new discovery in that most recent news at this Campbell Crawford area. Now, we do not have the actual assay results, but the news release shows a number of visuals of the drill core that includes native silver within this drill core. David, because we haven't talked about this Campbell Crawford area, give us an understanding of where it's located broadly on the project and why you did shift the drill to this area to start testing.
Okay, well, thanks, Corey. So the Campbell Crawford zone or area is located about a kilometer north of our North Drummond area, or which is or about a kilometer north of Kerr Lake, and it's part of our broader, much bigger Silver Kings project, and we've got 16,000 hectares. So the reason we like this as sort of a secondary target when we started our new Q1 drill program here was that we found that there had been some very good drill results, not on our property, but relatively close off to the west by a company in the 80s that had hit some very, very, high grade silver. How reliable it is, who knows? But, these clues in this historical mining camp are sometimes worth following up on. So that, combined with our new kind of geological understanding of where the most favorable host areas are, sort of between the rock lithology and the structural preparation, we think we figured out where the best or highest probability zones are to create these silver clusters, these clusters of silver veins. So we identified a target on basically right below this old exploration prospect called Campbell Crawford, and it was explored more than 100 years ago. They found some cobalt mineralization at surface, and often when you have cobalt, you can in that same vein or whatever, you can have silver in another spot. So they had done actually an exploration at it, into a hill, looking for the continuation of this cobalt vein. And, I guess they found it, but they didn't find any silver there. So they sort of gave up, and, very little work was done on this project ever since. A couple of drill holes were drilled very long time ago. And this property ended up being part of our bigger land package. And we like the prospect of drilling deeper here, because what we found is that there's this rock unit that goes throughout the whole cobalt camp called the Nipissing Diabase, and it's sort of like this flat sheet of diabase, which is a volcanic rock. It gets gently folded because these rocks are really old, but it's sort of more or less flat lying, and right above it and right below it seem to be the best places to find the silver mineralization. Sometimes you can actually get it hosted in the diabase itself, but that tends to be rare. Most of the bigger mines were hosted in the rocks immediately above or below this diabase. So we thought we had a target below the diabase. That was our geological rationale for having a target for the Campbell Crawford zone, to go there and drill. And really, when we planned this Q1 drill program, we really we actually had two other targets. We were gonna go just to do a bit more project development or target development, so that as we work on and drill the North Drummond zone, which was our most advanced target, we have some other targets sort of coming up behind it, and this was one of them. And now that we've hit such spectacular native silver in a vein here, this is really the exact kind of hit that we're looking for. It's very classic kind of Cobalt Ontario style mineralization, and it's likely going to result in us shifting our focus now to the Campbell Crawford area for the time being, because we want to keep drilling here and figure out how big this is going to be.
Yeah, David, it makes sense. You've hit some pay dirt here. If you've got native silver, that you're going to get something back on those assays. I guess you're still waiting to find out what exactly it entails, but it shows here in Figure 2 in this press release that this was about 237 meters downhole, about 150 centimeters of core, so about 2 meters. And there was two kinds of mineralization. There was that semi-massive silver, but there was also some silver stringers kind of hosted in the fractures of the wall rock. And you had mentioned us before we started recording that you were kind of encouraged by that not only are you getting these veins, but you're also getting some of these fractures in the wall rock. So maybe just speak to what you expect to find as you continue to drill this area. And I'm also curious, are you going to assay it for cobalt as well as silver?
Yeah, great question. So yeah, when you look at that core that we show in the press release, you can see that you've got the vein there, which is the white stuff is calcite, that's the classic sort of gang mineral in the Cobalt Ontario veins. And then you've got this semi-massive silver, native silver, which is just spectacular, looks spectacular. That's obviously going to be from a grade point of view, the highest grade zones within that piece of core. But that being said, above and below the vein, so in the hanging wall and the footwall of that vein, we're seeing these silver stringers that are basically native silver again, filling fractures in the wall rock. And that is very encouraging, because what it means is that the overall sort of economic intercept is going to be wider than just the vein itself. It won't be as high grade, of course, but you're going to have the bonanza high grade from the native silver calcite vein in the middle, and then you're going to have some of this silver stringers mineralization on both sides of that. And when we think about going in and mining this one day, silver stringers are actually going to play a really important role in building up the volume, so that we've got more mineable tons there. One thing that we've noted as we've been exploring and studying this area now for about 2 years since we did our first deal in the camp, and we've gone to some of the old mines that were closer to surface, where you can kind of go in and visit. And what you see is that of the super high grade silver veins are gone, of course, because if they found them, they were mined. But a lot of the time you will actually see these silver stringers still there in the wall rock, because at the time these old timers didn't have the same kind of production methods that we have today. They were really chasing the visual massive silver that's so well known in the camp. And they really were not looking for, these narrow fractures filled with silver, which you can get in the hanging wall and footwall, which is kind of interesting. So we saw it actually in different mines on our property. We saw these fractures filled with silver, and there it is again in our core now in a brand new discovery.
So, David, what about follow-up here? You clearly are a bit more focused on this area. We still don't have the drill results, but as the drill is still turning, what do you do in terms of stepping out from this hole that has got you refocused here?
Yeah, so we are looking to do some rush assays here on this particular intercept. So we'll get results as quickly as we can. I think it's really important for us to understand exactly what we've got here. And sorry, to get back to your early question, yes, we will be assaying for cobalt as well. We did mention this in the press release, but we did see the presence of some cobalt in the veins as well as the silver. Obviously not as much of it. Typically you have kind of a gradation of the massive silver would be in the core of one of these veins, and then you get, cobalt and silver together, and then at the very extremes, you'll get maybe only cobalt. So there is a bit of a zonation. The cobalt always seems to be there, it's just may not be there right in the heart of the vein where the silver kind of takes over. So in terms of following it up now, look, pretty typical. I think what we need to do is just drill very carefully along strike, and and up and down, and see what we can do to get a couple more pierce points in this vein, and then as well, there's other structures we hit as well that could host high grade silver somewhere along the structure as well. And so I think beyond this first vein that we hit, the bigger picture here is that we would expect that there'll be other mineralized structures that we can drill out here and build up a bit of a cluster, which again, that's kind of typical of what you see in the cobalt camp.
Well, David, just taking a step back and looking at Kuya Silver as a company, most people think of the Bethania Silver mine and mill that you're working on bringing into production and toll milling, and there's a lot of action there in Peru. But you've got this whole other project here with your Silver Kings project, and there's still a lot of land, not just the North Drummond target, not just this Campbell Crawford, but like you mentioned, there's other targets the company would like to go after. How would you like investors to see this overall Silver Kings project, in lieu of the fact that most people are only looking at Bethania when they think of Kuya? How would you like them to think of the overall combined two projects?
Well, I mean, the main reason that we added the Silver Kings project to our asset portfolio, it was to have a bit of a pipeline. So while we're developing Bethania, and I think Bethania has probably a number of different growth initiatives that it can undertake, both on the resource side and also production expansions. So I think Bethania is going to be a project that not just goes into production, but then continues to grow from there. But in terms of thinking about building a bigger silver company one day, having a second project is obviously key. So we liked the Silver Kings project because we saw a lot of similarities with Peru, from a kind of a mining and strategy point of view, in the sense that you're going to be targeting super high grade veins, smaller tonnage, which is a good thing, because that means less capex, less risk, less permitting, quicker timelines as well. And so something that we could get into production maybe a few years after Bethania. So that's really the strategy. We went into the Silver Kings project knowing that it is an earlier stage project, and we did not have a resource, and it is something where some exploration needs to be done. But we're very confident, because there's so much historical data that we have, that we could come up with a resource on one or more of our targets. So it's obviously very gratifying now to have made a new discovery in the camp, and something that we can now continue to drill and expand. And we can also we'll also drill and explore in some of those other targets as well.
Okay, well, David will follow up when especially these drill results come back, and if there's anything else in the core that the company wants to press release. Keep us up to date on future news, and if anybody has any follow-up questions, please email us. We'll get David to address those. Seems like right now, David, bit of a waiting game for these drill results to get back, but that drill is still turning. So please keep us up to date when those drill results are back, and we'll have you back on the show. Thanks for your time today, David.
Thanks a lot, Corey.